Have you ever stopped to wonder whether the decisions you make each day are truly yours, or whether they are echoes of choices made long before you were aware of choosing? This is a difficult question because it challenges the idea of personal freedom. Most people like to believe they are in control of their lives. They believe their preferences, relationships, fears, and ambitions are conscious decisions. But what if many of them were shaped before you had the language to question them? What if you are not choosing as often as you think? What if you are repeating? Childhood is not just a phase of life. It is a training ground for the nervous system. Long before logic develops, the brain learns patterns through experience. It learns what feels safe and what feels dangerous. It learns how love is given, withdrawn, or negotiated. These lessons are not stored as thoughts. They are stored as reactions. When a child grows up in an unpredictable environment, the brain learns hypervigilance. As an adult, this can appear as anxiety, people-pleasing, or control. When love feels conditional, the adult may constantly seek approval. When emotions were dismissed, the adult may struggle to express vulnerability. These behaviors feel like personality traits. In reality, they are adaptations. They were once useful. They may no longer be. Psychologists call these patterns schemas or attachment styles. They are internal maps of how relationships in life are expected to work. Once formed, the brain looks for evidence that confirms them. This is why people often end up in familiar situations, even when those situations are painful. Familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. The brain prefers known pain to unknown risk. Repetition feels like choice when the alternative feels threatening. This is why people say things like, "I always end up with the same type of person," or "My life keeps repeating itself." It is not fate, it is pattern recognition. The mind unconsciously recreates emotional environments it understands. Even if those environments caused harm, they feel navigable. The nervous system knows the rules. Change feels dangerous because it requires learning new ones. One of the most deceptive aspects of childhood programming is that it feels invisible. You do not hear a voice telling you to repeat the pattern. You feel a pull, a comfort, a sense of rightness, even when logic disagrees. This is why insight alone is not enough to change behavior. You can understand the pattern and still repeat it. The body must feel safe enough to choose differently. Responsibility is another area shaped early. Some children grow up being praised only when they perform. They become adults who tie worth to productivity. Rest feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels like failure. Other children learn that expressing needs causes conflict. They become adults who minimize themselves. These patterns are not moral flaws. They are learned survival strategies. The illusion of choice becomes strongest when patterns are rewarded. Society often reinforces childhood adaptations. Overworking is praised. Emotional suppression is called strength. Self-neglect is reframed as sacrifice. When a pattern aligns with external reward, it becomes even harder to question. You believe this is who you are. You rarely ask why. Breaking a childhood pattern does not feel empowering at first. It feels wrong. The nervous system reacts with anxiety, guilt, or fear. Choosing differently feels like a threat to belonging. This is why growth often feels like loss. You are not just changing behavior. You are challenging a story that once kept you safe. Awareness is the first step, but not the final one. The question is not, why am I like this, but when did this begin? Tracing reactions back to their origin removes shame. You stop seeing yourself as broken. You start seeing yourself as trained. And anything that was learned can be unlearned. True choice emerges slowly. It appears when you can pause instead of react. When you notice the impulse without obeying it. When you tolerate discomfort long enough to respond differently. This is not about blaming parents or the past. It is about recognizing influence. Freedom begins with honesty. Many people fear examining childhood patterns because they worry it will trap them in the past. The opposite is true. Unexamined patterns keep you there. Awareness releases you into the present. It gives you options where there were once only reflexes. It allows you to act instead of repeat. So here's the question to sit with. When you make a decision, ask yourself whether it expands you or protects you. Ask whether it comes from curiosity or fear. Ask whether this choice is new or simply familiar. Because the most important moment of freedom is not when you rebel against the past. It is when you realize you no longer have to live inside it.